Service. I welcome Honorable Chairman, Mr. J.S. Satish Kumar sir, our Dean, Professor Dr. P. Shanmugam sir, our Medical Superintendent, Professor Dr. N. Mohan sir, Dr. P.M.S. sir, HOD Department of Pathology and Controller of Examination, Dr. Prasanna Babu sir, DMS, Dr. Dhanasekar sir, Academic Director, Professor Dr. B. Usha ma'am, Vice Principal, Professor and HOD of Microbiology, and our guest speaker, Professor Dr. Devi Meenal ma'am, HOD Department of Radiology, Kilpauk Medical College, Chennai. Over to our HOD, Dr. Senthil Nathan sir, for the introduction of our guest speaker.
We are really happy to have our guest speaker today, Dr. Devi Meenal. She is actually a renowned person in Tamil Nadu Radiology Circle. She is an encouraging person, very enthusiastic person, who is a very good teacher as well. She has given more than 100 guest lectures, and she has got more than 18 publications, and she has created a very beautiful department, advanced department at Kilpauk Medical College, and she heads the department at Kilpauk Medical College. And we are happy to say that she has been awarded the Best Doctor Award from Tamil Nadu government in the year 2019. We are happy to have you here, ma'am. I think we all will benefit from your knowledge. Thank you, ma'am. Over to you. I will ask our Dean to say a few words.
Good morning to all. At the outset, I thank our chairman for creating an atmosphere and opportunity to conduct webinars like this. I thank our chairman for arranging this webinar. Next, I have to thank the guest speaker, Madam. So it's such a wonderful speaker and the head of the Department of Radio Diagnosis at Kilpauk Medical College. You will have a vast knowledge and vast experience in radio diagnosis. I am very happy to have you sharing your ideas with us, and I think the participants and our department people and all of the participants will benefit out of your speech regarding the mammogram in clinical practice. So I thank you, Madam, for accepting our invitation. I thank the Department of Radio Diagnosis, Dr. Senthil Nathan, Dr. Deepak, and other associate professors and other things for organizing such a wonderful webinar on mammogram. It is a rare subject, but we like to know what are the new things that you can pick up in a mammogram. Thank you very much, madam. We are eagerly waiting for hearing your speech. Thank you very much for giving an opportunity.
I'll ask our medical superintendent, Dr. Mohan, to say.
Good morning to one and all. Respected our chairman and our dean and professor and the HOD, Dr. Senthil Nathan, Dr. Deepak, and all the department faculties. We are very much, even though in Madras is full of flood, you are accepting to us. Mammogram still, as being told, it has to be enlightened to all, because it's still for early detection of breast cancer, it's a must. So before going into details, we want to have your lecture. Kindly enlighten us regarding all about mammogram in your experience. Thank you, madam. Thank you. Hand over to Professor and HOD. Thank you.
We are eager to hear you, ma'am.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Respected chairman, respected dean sir, medical superintendent, and respected head of the department radiology, Dr. Senthil sir, and the entire team of radiologists and the radiographers, all the professors of the hospital, the associate professors, assistant professors, and all the students. Very good morning to all of you. At the outset, I would like to thank Dr. Senthil sir, who was my senior actually. Have given me this opportunity. I'm very happy to be part of this program. Let me share the screen. Are you able to see my
Yes, yes.
screen, sir?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. You can continue.
Yeah, right. I'll just make it. So the topic given to me was mammogram in clinical practice. Okay, I have to make it relevant to the topic mammogram in clinical practice. What is a mammogram? So all of us know it's some scan of the breast. So either it can be a scan done with the X-ray or an ultrasound. Both are mammograms, whether it is a X-ray mammogram or a sonomammogram. So it's a radiological examination of the human breast using a low energy X-rays. That's what is a X-ray mammogram. It can also be done with an ultrasound. This is done routinely. So I have a few more newer techniques that I will tell about that in the course of the lecture. So what is my plan is what we do when you send requests, what we do in the radiology department. So just to tell you practically what we do in the radiology department using few slides. And then I have got some list of cases to share with you. So thereby that I can give how we go about in the radiology department. So more than everything that we need a clinical input, then only we can give a better radiological output actually. So here mammogram in clinical practice. So clinically day to day what we are supposed to do. That's the aim of this lecture. Why we are bothered about the mammograms? So all of us know carcinoma breast is one of the common cancers in the woman and the mortality is high if it is detected late. So what is our aim? To detect early and save lives. So what we are supposed to do, we have to send the patients for screening mammogram. We have to motivate the patient for screening mammogram. What is the aim of the screening? How it is going to benefit? So I have shown you a different fruits of different size to show you a different circles. So all of us know when the doctor examines a breast, it is called a clinical breast examination. When the patient examines herself, then that is the self breast examination. And when sent for the radiological examination, it is a X-ray mammogram. So if the patient is going to have a self breast examination occasionally, then you can deduct in this size. If the patient is going to have a regular every month examination, then the patient knows about her breast. So she can deduct better in a smaller size. And when you send the case for the one mammogram, you can deduct here. When you send regularly, so you can pick up even a developing asymmetry. So you can pick up very early, like a pepper size. So we have got so many patients with less than 1 centimeter proved malignant and have gone only for the wide local excision and the breast is preserved. So that is why we are motivating the patient to have a mammogram. So we have to preserve the breast. That is the aim of the screen. Okay. So main thing is if the patient is going to come in stage 4 like this, we can make the patient, treat the patient symptomatically and make the patient be happy till the time of this thing. We cannot do more about it. But when you deduct in stage 1 and 2, the patient is going to have a near normal life expectancy. So again, I stress upon avoid the end stages and pick up early. So you have to create awareness both for the self breast examination, clinical breast examination, and the regular mammogram screening. So when will you send a patient for the screening? When the patient comes with some complaint, then that is called a diagnostic mammogram. When the patient doesn't have any complaint and you are asking the patient to go for a regular checkup, that's what is the screening mammogram. So the Indian guidelines says any woman above 40 years should have an annual checkup. I request at least one X-ray mammogram above 40 years. It is a must. And if you detect a high-risk patient, then they need to have a scanning done 10 years before their expected risk. I will explain that in detail. if a sister is detected with a CA breast in 48 years, she has to have her screening started at 38 itself. She need not wait for the 40. So the 10 years before, when the family member got detected, the person should go for the screening. So this is what is the current guidelines. So what are the high risk factors that you will elucidate during the history? Is there a family history? Breast carcinoma or any other carcinoma, preferably ovarian carcinomas. Is it related to the any cancer family syndromes? Is there a specific gene mutations? Now many people are coming with that, and there are Pelkin-Elmer company, they have got even 82 genes panel detected in India. So there are people coming with that also. So you have to make that also as one of your regular questionnaire. And the people with late childbirth and a early menstruation and a late menopause, as all of us know, are the risk factors. And the obesity is now one of the risk factors. And about the hormones, have they used OCPs? Have they on any replacement, hormone replacement therapies? And as all of us know, the alcohol intake and the tobacco also increases the risk. So after asking the regular history and the high risk history, and then you are doing an inspection to look for any skin changes. Is there a redness? Is there any discharge coming out? And then you have to palpate for the lumps, any difference in the nipple, any dimpling. You can also squeeze the nipple and look for any discharge. So all these are a must as a good clinician. And you can also, when you inspect, you can also pick up an asymmetry. So whatever it may be, even if you think it is only the fat, better you have at least an ultrasound done to rule out a malignancy or a mass. So any asymmetry in the breast have to be evaluated. Even if you have a clear-cut general medicine case, it is better to evaluate, do at least an ultrasound and then leave it. So here you can very well see there is an inflammatory background. So automatically you can think it can be an abscess. Okay. And when you look at the nipple discharge, it can be a clear discharge, it can be a bloody or a purulent discharge or a milky discharge, or it can be a mixed, whatever it may be, the patient need to be evaluated. And these are all the cases seen long time back. Nowadays, people are little aware and they don't come so often, but occasionally we do see. So you can have a single mass or a multiple mass as it is, or a mass under axillary lymphadenopathy, under the traction of the nipple, and there is a skin changes around the nipple, and there's a typical pseudo or the skin orange peel appearance. So all these things are considered as the symptoms of malignancy, and then you have to send the patient for the mammogram. So as I have already told you, whether it can be a diagnostic mammogram when you send the patient with symptoms, or it can be a screening mammogram when you send a normal patient. This is our mammogram unit in Kilpatrick Medical College, the entrance of the unit, this one. And this is our machine. So now I'm going to talk about what's done practically in a radiology department. Then we will go in depth of the mammogram, right? So when you have sent a request, that we will be also asking the history and the regular other details, and then we will take the patient for the X-ray mammogram. So for the X-ray mammogram, this is the machine and this is the image. So what we do, this is taken from the net. This part is taken from the net. So what we do is we just place the breast in this plate. This is a detector plate in the digital X-ray mammograph. So you just place the breast and then compress. Why do we give a compress? You get the uniformity. So, and then this is called CC view, craniocaudal view, because the X-rays are positioned from above. This is the X-ray tube and this is the detector. So this is a craniocaudal view. And we just rotate the machine 45 degrees and then place the breast like that and then take this view. This is called mediolateral oblique view. So now for one breast, we take two views. So for both the breasts, it is going to be 4 views like this. Then we will be placing the CC side by side, the MLO side by side, right and left. Mainly, first of all, to look at the asymmetry. As a radiologist, I just advise you, don't try to make it symmetry. Just look at the image as it is. Is it the asymmetry created by the radiographer, or is it the patient's asymmetry? How do you know about it? You look at this pectoralis muscle. Is this appearing same, right? Is it all positioned same? Then you also make a central line from the nipple and then look at it. Is the image taken good? Yes, this is taken good. And there's no problem with the radiographer. This is a problem with the patient. How do I make a definitive comment about it? See, look at the fat area here. This is so big, and the fat area here. So there is a asymmetry in the breast from the radiology perspective, but we need not strain this much when the clinician is going to give the clinical details that the patient is sent for the asymmetry. Then our work becomes very easy. So automatically you also look at this area. There's also some glandular tissue in this axillary region. So this is the way that we position and then look at, is there is some calcification seen along one of the ductal course. I'll come to it later. All the details of the mammogram reporting, I'll come to it later. Actually. So this is the way that X-rays are taken. Once X-rays are taken, many of the corporate sectors for the screening, they don't do an ultrasound. But few of the places, they do ultrasound. But in KMC, we have a practice, whether it is a diagnostic or a screening, whatever the mammogram, X-ray mammogram always with the ultrasound. Why? Because few of the cysts, few of the benign lesions, you cannot pick up with the X-ray alone. You have to have an ultrasound done. So for a good radiologist, I advise you and I request all of you always to do ultrasound along with the X-rays and give a complete report. And this is our ultrasound room. We have a 12 MB monitor. Whatever is taken in the X-ray room gets transmitted to this through PACS. So we will be seeing the X-ray as well as we will be doing the ultrasound. So we can have a complete coordination, not only the hand eye to the patient and the monitor, to the X-ray also. So you can have, if something is seen in X-ray and not seen in ultrasound, immediately that you can go back, review and then make a perfect final report. So this is the way the patient is positioned in the ultrasound table and the breast is exposed and we expose up to the axilla and complete the ultrasound using this one along with the axillary region scanning. Then only it is complete. Okay. Now you have done an X-ray, you have done an ultrasound. I have projected this specifically because this one is taken previous to the digital mammogram in a normal conventional mammogram. It doesn't matter. The learning curve is only important. Actually, even the conventional mammogram, you can, if you are good enough, you can pick up everything. So here what happened is, see, there is a mass. This ultrasound shows some echogenic area suspicious of the microcalcification, which is not well seen in this X-ray. This was a conventional X-ray. So previously what you have to do, you have to have a specific magnification views to pick up these microcalcifications. But now with the era of the digital, you need not do all these additional views. You can have a digital zoom, you can have a digital contrast. So automatically you can very well see. I will show those kind in one of those cases. Okay. So that's the advantage of the digital mammogram. You don't ask the patient to come back again and do one repeat exposures, so the exposure is also reduced for the patient with the digital machine. Now, once you have done an ultrasound X-ray, you make the film like that in a proper cover, and then you have to report along with the BI-RADS. This is what practically done in any clinical radiology department for a mammogram, right? So we have understood what's been done in the department. Now we are going into the depth of the science, what we are supposed to look at it in the mammogram. Yes. So you have sent the patient. You wanted us to pick up either a tumor or a microcalcification. That tumor may be a benign tumor or a malignant tumor. And a microcalcification. See, you can see a lesion. So I have to say whether it is a benign or malignant, or it can be a microcalcifications. So you can nicely see the microcalcifications are here, right? So this is the aim of a mammogram, right? So is it enough if I look at the breast area alone? See, when you just look at it itself, you say it's a irregular high density mass, speculated automatically it is a malignant mass. You have to look at the axilla. Is there an abnormal nodes? So this one is having only mainly the mass lesions. But when you look at these axillas, there's something abnormal in the axillas. This is what is the axillary tail. I have specifically projected this image to show you. These are all the digital images and this is the conventional image. There's nothing wrong in having the conventional image. See, these are all the axillary tails. So this one, the breast is also having a fat density. The axillary tail is also having the fat density. But when you look at it, this is not a mass in the axillary tail. This is a normal glandular tissue. See, it is all same here. So that is the normal glandular tissue in the axillary tail. But when you look at this, there is an abnormal mass. So here I have to say, is it a mass or is it a lymph node? So is this lymph node as a loss of fatty hilum? Then I also have to think this is a malignant lymph node. In India, you also have to have something in your mind. Is it tuberculosis? The other one is also lymphoma. Many lymphomas we have picked up in the mammograms. So what is routinely done in a radiology department is an X-ray mammogram and an ultrasound. So what all will be better? So if you have availability of the digital mammogram, you can go for the digital mammogram directly than a conventional. If you do not have, that doesn't matter. You have to make a good learning curve. That's it. And with the available digital mammograms nowadays, we also have something called 3D tomosynthesis. This is done in the digital X-ray machine. So I will show you the image later. And with the ultrasound, we also have a special software called elastography. This is also available in almost all the machines nowadays. So all these are made as a routine nowadays. The X-ray mammogram along with 3D tomo, ultrasound and elastography as made as a single package nowadays. And if you have a problem, when you make a BI-RADS 0 and a further evaluation or a specific reason, then you can go for a contrast X-ray mammography or a contrast MRI. In this contrast, what we do, we just inject a contrast into the cubital vein of the patient and do the scan. Either it can be an X-ray mammogram scan after the contrast or the MRI scan. So now we have done the imaging. So what is the next step? If you have found out a mass, and if I'm going to report BI-RADS 4 or 5, then the patient need to have a histopathological examination. So it can be a FNAC, but in our institute, we always prefer a core biopsy than a FNAC. And if there is a difficulty with the ultrasound and only microcal is there, then we will go also for the stereotactic biopsy or a vacuum assisted biopsy or the aspiration of the microcalcifications. There are also some more investigations available, that is thermography, automated breast volume scanning, CT and nuclear medicine, not much utilized actually. So for the practical benefit, it is the digital X-ray mammography, 3D tomo, ultrasound and elasto will give you a diagnosis. If needed, go for the contrast X-ray mammography or the contrast MRI, depending upon the availability and the expertise. So now, I said tomosynthesis. What is the tomosynthesis? It is using an X-ray, just observe this image nicely. Using an X-ray, an image is taken in a volume and then we go through it slice by slice. I wanted all of you to look at a vessel. See this vessel. You have started making it, seeing it full and then disappearing. Again, I'm just clicking you, just look at it. See, just look at it. You have started seeing it and then disappearing. This means I am virtually walking through the breast. That is slice by slice. Slice by slice, it is been slice by slice, it is been visualized. So we are seeing the total breast as a volume, and then we are seeing it in both the CC and the MLO views. So we will not miss even a smaller lesion. So the total image, the total breast is scanned slice by slice, and then we are reporting it. So it will give you a more precision and more better resolution. And this is more useful for planning the trajectory for the biopsies, because if I find a vessel outside, so I will avoid that route. So automatically the bleeding and the hematoma of that area will be avoided. So that is also one thing, and the edge is better seen with the tomosynthesis. And now I'm just coming to the regular routine ultrasound just to show you two common benign lesions and the malignant lesion. So these two cross are the benign lesions. How do I say it is benign? It is well defined, and the density is more of a hypodense lesion. See, this is what is called, we call it as an enhancement, what is seen behind. So you have a milder enhancement and the edge shadowing. This is a typical fibroadenoma. Previously, we consider if the length of the lesion is more than the height, then that is a benign. But that is not true nowadays, because we are seeing this kind of the malignant lesions also. So that is not taken into real account nowadays. So this is one of the fibroadenomas. Here, when you look at this area, this is the typical acoustic enhancement. So this is the typical benign lesion, that's a cyst with the septations. And these two are the malignant lesions. This is a solid mass which is irregular, spiculated, and also having a microcalcification showing an increased vascularity. So this is a typical malignant mass. When you look at this, we say this as the solid cystic mass. So this mass as a solid area, there's a cystic component, thick septations, and then increased vascularity. Automatically, these two comes to the malignant category. So it is very simple to categorize if there is a large lesion in the ultrasound itself. I said that whenever we do one ultrasound, we also extend our scan to the axilla. So this is the normal the axillary node. So you measure the cortical thickness of the node. If it is less than 3.5 millimeter, you can leave it out. Otherwise, you have to follow it up. This is a node showing a significant cortical thickening, but still the hilum is maintained. So it can even be a non-specific lymphadenopathy. So you may have to follow it up with the biopsy in this case. But when you have the absent fatty hilum like this, it can favor more of a malignant lesion. So you also have to have a thorough examination of the breast and do the biopsy of both. Once you have done with that, then you go for the reporting. We use what is called a BI-RADS. BI-RADS, that is a breast imaging reporting and the data system. This has been developed by the American College of the Radiologists, and the final edition was out by 2013. This is mainly what are all the words to be used, lexicons, and for the assessment categories 1 to 6, and how do you organize your report, and for the recommendations and benchmarks. This is being formed mainly to help the clinician. So what is a BI-RADS? I said it is 0 to 6. What is 0? The investigation is incomplete. You have to have a further imaging to make a final diagnosis. And if it is BI-RADS 1, that is what is a happy news. It is negative, no malignancy. Okay. BI-RADS 2 and 3, it's considered benign. And for the BI-RADS 3, what we do is all fibroadenomas, we will put it in BI-RADS 3. We will follow it up for 6 months, and then we'll downgrade to BI-RADS 2. If I have reported something BI-RADS 4 or 5, I need to do, it is a must to do a biopsy. That is better, always better. And now this 4 is being categorized into A, B, C also. 4, B, C, and 5 biopsy is a must. And 6 is a known biopsy proven malignancy. So this is about the BI-RADS. And in the BI-RADS, about the lexicons, I am not going into the detail. It's available in the net. Anybody can go through it. Just to say an example, if you are going to describe a mass, then I'll be saying about the shape using a word: oval, round, or irregular, and the margins, whether it is circumscribed, obscured, microlobulated, indistinct, and spiculated. And the density, is it a high, equal, low, or fat? And the reference here is the pectoralis muscle. So is it higher than the muscle or lower than that? That's the way it's been compared. And the architectural distortion, asymmetries, any intramammary lymph node, skin lesions. So all these things are reported. I said in another investigation, available, that is the elastography. In elastography, there is two things. One is a strain elastography. Another one is a shear wave elastography. Strain elastography, in that what we do is we just give a compression through the probe and look at the software color. It's been given Tsukuba scoring into 5. So you have to look at this bar. Is the bar blue color showing hard? Then look at the image. Is it also showing the color, the same color? See here, we have two lesions. One is a bigger one is a smaller lesion. I say the upper one is definitely benign, the lower one is, even though it's very smaller, I'm going to say it is malignant as per the elastography. How do I say it? Here, the hard one is blue color. So automatically, this is the way. And there is a graph available whether you have done the strain properly or not. That can be checked with this actually. This is all for the sake of the radiologist, but for the clinician, I'll just explain the elastography very easily. So when you palpate a breast, a mass, you just give some pressure and you feel the mass is hard. So the pressure that you give, that's what is called the stress, and the feel that you get as a heart, that is what is a strain. The stress by strain made into a ratio using a Young's modulus, and that is the elasticity score, and that is being measured in kilopascals. This is being given automated in the machine. That is what is a shear wave elastography. So strain elastography is a quantitative one. Shear wave elastography is a qualitative one. So first we'll see one case for the strain elastography. This will also give you a ratio. So I take a normal area, I take an abnormal area, make a ratio. And if the ratio more than 2.5, I say it is malignant. That is a very good thing. I can also use the color. And all these areas, the ROI size is important. You cannot put a different circle for different areas and then say something more. The circle size need to be same for the normal area and for the abnormal area. And the pressure that you give is also important. See, it's a similar lesion. Okay. I have shown you the very similar lesions. I say this is benign. See, the color is blue. So the color is green. The color is blue over here. So this is a malignant one. And you confirm your findings. See, the ratio is more, the ratio is less. So that's the example of the strain elastography. This is another example. See, the color is blue over here. So this is a malignant invasive ductal carcinoma along with the pathology. So here the color is green. It is a benign lesion. It is a fibroadenoma. It's very simple as like Max. Radiology is very simple. Actually, if you really understand the subject. And then the shear wave elastography, I told you, it is calculating in values. You look at the kilopascals over here. So the one point is the strain wave, blue is abnormal, shear wave, red is abnormal for the routine machines. But you have to look at the color map carefully. Here, what has happened? This is a mass. The mass, it looks so bad, it's malignant. By the image B mode itself, we can say. But here, what has happened to the value? See, this one is 130 kilopascals. And there are many papers available, and all the papers says anything above 79, it is 100% malignant. But there are variations to make it benign. From 40 to 79, there are so many variations, so many papers available. So you need to have a good learning experience to make a benign, but definitive malignancy more than 80 kilopascals. So this is 130 kilopascal definitive malignancy. So another modality I wanted to introduce is the contrast mammography. What we do in a contrast is we inject the contrast. This is our machine. So where we make the patient lie down, you can also make the patient sit down and then inject the contrast and take the patient immediately to the mammo suite. And here, this is the time that I have injected. I wait for 2 minutes for the contrast to go into the breast uniformly. And I need to complete the scan in 6 minutes. This 6 minutes is very important. I have to do all the 4 images in this 6 minutes for both the breasts. And then what we do actually, what is really done by this machine is the machine uses a K-edge principle of the iodine. It takes a low energy scan using a molybdenum rhodium filter below the K-edge and take a soft tissue mammography, and then using a higher the kiloelectro KEV, that is 45 to 49, using a copper filter, another image. So what has happened? This image has picked up the soft tissue details. This image has picked up the contrast details. Now you are subtracting both. So automatically you get only the lesion. The subtraction is done by the machine software itself. So automatically the lesion stands out. So that's very nice for the clinician to appreciate. I'll just show you a case. This is one of the staff nurse who had a family history. I'm not really able to pick up anything in this X-ray mammogram, but the patient had a strong family history. So the patient was very much worried and she came for the regular follow-up. And once we got the contrast mammogram, we did the contrast. This is the tomo image. See what has happened. It has picked up a small lesion. So I went back in the tomo, see it is seen here. So this is seen here, but when you look at this, this is well defined, dense homogeneous enhancement. So I say this is a benign lesion picked up. So no need to worry about it, even though she is having a strong family history. So we can pick up a tiny lesion, we can make 100% confidence of what we are reporting with the contrast mammography. Now we will go through few of the cases. I think that I have around 20 minutes left behind. So we will try our level best to see few of the cases and then we will wind up with the end. Okay, right. So this is a patient who has come for the mammogram and I could see 2 lesions. Somebody said 3 lesions, whatever it may be. One of those is having a calcification in the left breast. So what we did the tomo. The tomo really will show you the edges. The edges are marked so well defined. So I can say it is a well defined. So it's kind of a benign lesion. But when I put the contrast, I can make it still further. See, when you look at it, there is some areas of non-enhancement seen within these lesions. This is called a non-enhancing septa. So if you find a non-enhancing septa, the diagnosis is fibroadenoma. So automatically you make sure this is only the fibroadenoma. Even though I have put the case as BI-RADS 4 before the contrast, now I can reduce it to BI-RADS 3. So it reduces the BI-RADS category now. This is another patient who has come with the 2 mass lesions. So I have to say whether it is a benign or malignant. See, all the margins are seen, but this margin is not so well seen. This is what is called upsquared. This is all distinct. Here it becomes upsquared. And there is some kind of speculation like appearance is there, but here all the margins are well seen. Here the density is high density. Here the density is equal density. So there is a difference in both the lesions. Let us see all the images. So this is what we have seen in the tomo. See, the tomo beautifully has brought up the speculations over here. And when we give the contrast, I am able to see the non-enhancing septa. So that's what is the fibroadenoma. Here, what has happened? Only the rim enhancement, some irregularity at this area. So this is a definitive malignant kind of the enhancement. So the heterogeneous enhancement, the rim enhancement, all that favors a malignancy. So this is a malignant mass, this is a benign mass. So in a single breast that you can differentiate to such a level. So here, when you look at this patient in this image itself, so this is an indistinct margin, irregular. So automatically there's some kind of these speculations and the nipple seems to be retracted and we are not really sure. So when we go into it and the tomo images shows the speculations and what has happened, the contrast beautifully picks up the rim. Rim is thick over here. It is asymmetric rim and more of a heterogeneous, and this one is multiple speculations, and this is more of a malignant mass. But I can say, why do you want to do a contrast for this patient? I have to look at, is there any other lesion on the other breast? Is there a multicentric lesion? So all this will change the treatment protocol. That is what is important. Here is another lady, interesting. It's a 36-year-old lady, non-lactating, no discharge, no family history, and had a no discharge and no family history. The patient had come some difference. So what you see here is a thickening. So when we find a skin thickening, automatically our mind will think, is it a malignant mass, right? And then there is some kind of increased density, but I'm not really sure about the mass. So when you go about it, so this is the typical appearance of a non-mass. So you find an asymmetric densities, right? Okay. So what we do, we did the contrast. See what has happened. It shows a kind of a regional enhancement. So when you compare the other areas, and this, what has happened, this turned out to be the, I'll show you, this is the typical case of a mastitis. See what has happened in the ultrasound. See, it shows a multiple abnormal ducts, but you cannot conclude with this because all the ducts are filled with some kind of a materials. So we don't know, is this ducts are filled with some ductal carcinoma elements or not. So we did the biopsy also for this patient. It turned out to be the non-specific mastitis. Why did we did the biopsy? We put it as BIRADS 4B. That's why we did this one. So what is this case? Almost not much of things are really you are able to pick up in the routine mammography, but I had some doubt because there is some kind of a asymmetry here. And then when we did the contrast, see beautifully you are able to see a rim and a mass within it. This is the typical papilloma, a cystic mass with a papillary lesion within it. This papillomas can be benign or malignant. So here with the contrast, we also have to look at the background enhancement. So the background enhancement will also give you some clue. If you have a minimal background enhancement, less than 25%, 50%, 75%, 100%, you call it as minimal, mild, moderate, and the significant. The background enhancement is not abnormal, any kind of enhancement there. Background enhancement that does not equal to the density of the breast. See, this is the mild, moderate, minimal, mild, and moderate, and significant background enhancement. Okay. So I'm projecting one image here. See, the breast has the density more. It is like a type C breast. But what has happened? No enhancement. So the point I want to tell you is the background enhancement is not equal to the density of the breast. It is different with the kind of the, so it depends on the hormonal stages. It depends on the menstruation phase. All that favors the background enhancement. So here is another patient. When you look at it, you can say, yes, there is a mass over here, which has been obscured as if looking like a normal increased density asymmetry, right? So what has happened? We thought this is abnormal. What is there? What happens here with the contrast? This is abnormal or this is abnormal. So whenever you have a lesion of the low density, that may look like normal one. That is the point over here. What has happened? Is it an increased background enhancement or is it a lesion? So that's the point you have to have in mind. And when we evaluated, this turned out to be the invasive breast carcinoma on the right side, involving the entire breast with the positive lymph nodes. This is another patient after the contrast. See, there is no background, no enhancement on the right side. There's abnormal enhancement on the left side. When you look at it, maybe looking like a mass over here in the upper outer quadrant. So when I look at it, this is what I told you, a digital zoom, digital contrast. So when I zoomed it, I didn't ask the patient to come again. In the machine itself, we can do all this. See what is there? There is a microcalcification, a regional involvement, and the abnormal mass is not, the background mass is not so prominent, but there is an abnormal lymphadenopathy. So this is further zoom of the mass. All of you can appreciate the beautiful microcalcifications. So this is the typical pleomorphic kind of the microcalcifications. And see, we have 10 more minutes, right? So now this is another case. When you come to this, so what has happened? See, look at it. It looks like a mass over here, mass on the other side, right? This is the chomo, and then I'm coming to the this thing. See, there is a skin thickening on one side alone. So there's a lymph node enlargement on the other side. So when you put the contrast, you can very well say there is a malignant mass which is heterogeneous enhancing on both the breasts. So that is very, very important. The patient need not go for the two surgeries. If you diagnose both together and properly, the treatment is going to be effective and easy. And that's the point I wanted to tell you. And this is one of those cases where we made the diagnosis of fibroadenolipoma. This is a hematoma. This is a breast within the breast appearance. But when we evaluated, the ultrasound looks as if this particular area, there is something abnormal in the ultrasound looking, but the strain elastography, this way, that way, I'm not able to. So we did the biopsy. This turned out to be focal adenosis without atypia. So we can also have some issues even with our so much of learning curve and the diagnosis, right? And then this is one of the cases where you can see the clips. So why there is after the surgery, why there is this big mass? So don't be worried or panicky when we put the contrast and there's nothing enhancing. And in the ultrasound, it is only simple seroma. There's no recurrence. And the contrast mammogram, we always use the lexicons of the MRI. And I'm not going into it. And the before contrast X-ray mammography, it was only the MRI contrast mammography is used for the problem solving tool. But X-ray mammography is very easy, and even a tiny lesions can be picked up, and it's more useful for the dense breast and the family history patients. And with the MRI, they can have a claustrophobia also. And we can look at the positive lesions, the extent of the lesions, multifocality. We can make a definitive diagnosis of fibroadenoma by using a non-enhancing septa. So, and this also used for the neoadjuvant chemotherapy. So this is the way the patient is being positioned in the MRI specific breast coil. We also have the coil in KMC. And when you put the patient with the contrast, you get the maps like this. This type 3 curve is important, and this will tell you 29 to 77% it can be malignant. This is one of the advantages of the contrast MRI. See, this patient had a strong suspicion. We are not able to pick up anything in the contrast, but because of the strong suspicion, the MR was done. What has happened? See, we went back. This is a malignant mass. We went back and looked at it. So this is mainly because of the technical error. When the breast is so big and they are not able to bring out the entire pectoralis into the view, you can miss the retromammary region masses, which can be picked up in the MRI. So this is the advantage of the contrast MRI. It also has the disadvantages. This is the 22-year-old and had a lumps. So the elastography, there is a type 2 only. So with this, the MR was done. MR was showing a type 3 curve. So we had a doubt, what is this? We think benign, the MR is showing this thing. Why we did all this? Because of the patient insisting on it. And then the pathology turned out to be multiple fibroadenoma in an inflammatory background. So that can also happen with the MRI. So the false positivity can happen with an MRI. And this is a very small lesion. The suspicion was there in the elastography. It's a small ductal area. But when we did the contrast, it is only type 2, not much suggestive of a malignant. But this one, elastography, strong suspicion. So whenever we have mismatch between the two modalities, we always do a biopsy. So this turned out to be ductal carcinoma in situ. And this is one of those cases when taken once, it was the lesion. So in the different phase of menstruation, it disappeared. So the point is proliferative changes in the breast. So these are all the few drawbacks in the MRI, which is not happening with the contrast X-ray mammography. So with in my experience, I feel contrast X-ray mammography is better than the contrast MRI because of you can have a reduced time. It is done within 8 minutes and you have the better positive predictive values. But the only disadvantage is I cannot tell you the contrast kinetics. And it's only 7 more minutes left to begin. I will just wind up. Just to tell you, there is multiple societies. American Cancer Society says the screening should be started by 40 years, an annual follow-up. The US Preventive Service Task Force says begin by 50, repeat every 2 years. The Mayo Clinic says begin by 40, annual screening. The ACR guideline says Begin by 40 and then annual screening. Whatever it may be, Indian guidelines up to 20 to 40 years, clinical breast examination by the doctor and the breast awareness, that is the self-examination by the patient. More than 40 years, 40 to 50 years annual, and then more than 50 years, every 2 years screening will pick up the yearly carcinoma. That is the thing. There is also something available in the internet, breast cancer risk assessment tool, that will tell you about the lifetime risk. If a patient coming to you with a concern, then you can use this tool and tell them, and you can counsel them for their lifetime risk. And if the patient had a chest radiation, start screening by 25 years. Family history of ovarian CA, start screening by 35. And family relatives start by 25 years. And avoid X-ray mammography during pregnancy and lactation. Avoid contrast during lactation. And don't do X-ray mammography post FNAC or the biopsies. And for the ultrasound, there is no contraindications. And whenever you have a difficulty with the microcalcifications, you can use a stereo biopsy. This coordinates the X, Y, Z and then takes the biopsy. You can also go for the wire localization of the smaller lesions. Here we have seen a very small lesion of 9 millimeters in a 3 kg breast. So how will they operate? They want to do a wide local excision. So we are putting a wire over there. It is trying to escape. See, it is trying to escape. Now I'm feeling the hardness, and then I'm just looking at it. Now your ultrasound guided, you can very well see the wire has gone through the lesion. So we can very well make sure as a radiologist, even if we diagnose a smaller lesions, then we can make sure that lesions are localized using the wire. So that is the main advantage of the radiology guided wire localization. And once you have got the report with you, what do you do with that report? By that's 4 and 5, do a biopsy. If it turns out to be the malignant, go for the oncology workup and treatment. If it is by that 3, do a short-term follow-up. By that's 1 and 2 is a regular follow-up. It is only the teamwork which can really do the best, and all of us together can succeed. And if you really help a woman, I just want to end saying this quote: when you help a woman, you help a family, and when you help a family, you help a community. And whatever that I have projected is the total teamwork of entire pink team of our department. This is our department and our machinery. I really want to thank the organizers, the entire team of radiology, the medical college administration, and for the audience for your patient hearing. Thanks a lot. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, ma'am.
This is the book what we have written, and this is the first world atlas on contrast mammography. So you can make use of it for your departments. Thank you very much.
Excellent, madam. Excellent presentation. Being a surgeon, early stages we have been doing a mammogram, and I learned a lot of things from your presentation. All your slides, so very excellent. I learned a lot of things from your lecture. Thank you very much for an excellent presentation, madam. So I'm really appreciating the pictures which you have shown us and clear all our doubts. Thank you very much for such a wonderful presentation.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. I will ask certain questions now.
Yes, sir. If I know, I will answer, sir.
You know that. Okay. When to time a mammogram as in comparison to menstruation? Because you mentioned this in your lecture.
Sir, it is pre-menstruation, it may be painful, sir. Other than that, I don't think there is no real this thing that you have to, because if you really time and all, people will disappear.
Yeah.
So it's better you can do it day in and day out. And if you find some difficulty, you explain that to the patient and ask them to come in the different phase. So you can do it regularly, sir. Only thing is if the breast is going to be edematous and tender just before the menstruation, because of the, it may be little painful for them for the compression.
Thank you. What about contrast, ma'am? You said advice for all patients?
No, sir. No, you don't do as it is available. Don't do it for everybody. Everything has its own real indications. What we do in our department is, even if the mammogram is normal and there is a strong family history, like the staff nurse whom I told you. So these things picks up even a smaller lesions. So for that you can use. If the breast is going to be very big, sometimes you have to change the detector. The breast will be around 3 to 4 kgs. One breast will be so big. So those cases, even if you are a very good radiologist having a good learning curve, you may miss it. So those kind of a dense breast, you can use it as a routine. Otherwise, with a clear-cut indication, when you have a single lesion and a malignant, you want to go only for a wide local excision, always do a contrast and rule out EC10. Any other lesion available in that breast or in the opposite breast. And for all cases of the lobular carcinomas, always do a contrast this thing and rule out is it a bilateral. So these are all the few things. And neoadjuvant, it's very useful, sir, actually. So these are all the things you can go in for the contrast X-ray mammography. We are getting patients even from the South, Karnataka and Andhra too. People come in the flight and train, we do the cases on the same day. So we do the cases, give them the report, they go back in the night. So that is the real advantages of the contrast X-ray mammography. For the best planning.
Okay, great. And the other thing, ma'am, is there any value for this contrast enhancement?
No, sir. There is no software so far designed. And what we are doing as a research tool is, whenever we have some suspicious lesion and the patient is cooperative, and we have completed the image in less than 6 minutes, we ask them to have another image by 10 minutes. And we are trying to get the images prior 6 minutes and 10 minutes to look as if like a washout what we see in the MRI. So if at all we get a good data set, and if it is loaded to some AI which is going to get developed, then we can have some contrast curve and the values. Otherwise, as of now, there is no values.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. It was actually eye-opening. Contrast mammogram is actually a new topic for us because we are not into breast imaging, and you being a specialist has opened up certain areas we can think of developing in our department. Thank you. It was really, we are really happy to have you with us. Thanks for your time, ma'am. I'd like to call upon Dr. Zibia for.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
I'd like to thank our guest speaker, Professor Dr. Devi Menon, Madam, HOD of Radiology Department, Keepak Medical College, for sparing her valuable time and enlightening us. Thank you, Madam. I would also like to thank our chairman, Satish Kumar sir, our dean sir, Professor Shanmugam sir, medical superintendent Dr. Mohan sir, Dr. PMS sir, controller of exams and HOD of Department of Pathology, DMS sir, Dr. Prasanna Babu sir, academic director Dr. Dhanasekaran sir, and vice principal Dr. Usha ma'am for giving this opportunity. I would also like to thank all the faculties and students for attending the webinar and making it successful. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Really excellent. So far, I listened to the various webinars. I feel that this is not worth listening to this.
Thank you.
So many things, but I learned a lot of things. Good speaker, good topic.